Ladies and gentlemen, we are here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway to determine who will be the 42 car field that will be racing tomorrow night right here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. It's knockout qualifying for the Pennzoil 400. As always, I'm Elijah Leonard here with you to bring on this exciting action that we're about to be witnessing here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, especially for here tonight. And just get little small previews of here and there of what's to come for tomorrow night's race. It's definitely going to be pretty interesting to see, because now there's a pretty high chance, now that we moved over to the West Coast, of course, we're now in daytime conditions where the sun is out. It's a little bit cloudy here and there. You can kind of see just above the front straightaway, or just a little bit behind the front straightaway. There is a little bit of cloud cover, but it is staying just south of the racetrack, and we are ready to have some really good qualifying, of course, with just the slick track conditions that we're about to be faced with here, as we are going to have the part-time drivers coming out here in just a little bit. So it's definitely going to be pretty interesting to watch as we're getting ready to go here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Get all the part-time drivers out on the racetrack and out on pit road. These drivers are going to have 15 minutes on the clock to get out there and make their laps count. So far, no drivers have made the move to get out on the racetrack quite yet, but we'll see that here in just a little bit. There's our first taker. That's Michael DeFeo in the number 60 machine, followed by Travis Crampton. The two drivers that sat on the front row for the Daytona 500 to begin the season earlier this year, back in February. Well, of course, towards back in mid-February, I want to say. But of course, DeFeo, he's been a part of the last two Pepsi Cup Series races. He's done a fantastic job of turning his season around, of turning his Pepsi Cup career around, and pretty good chance, if he is able to continue this performance, he might be able to find himself back on the full-time roster for 2026 for the WRLA Pepsi Cup Series, as DeFeo gets on the clock for his first official time lap. Travis Crampton is also following close suit as he is exiting turn 2 right about now. Well, the drivers that are coming out on the racetrack, that's Ryan Gundillo in the number 51. Who made last week's race at Rockingham and actually wound it up with a really good finish. Finished third in his first Pepsi Cup Series outing of the year. Looking to try to keep that momentum going here coming into this weekend in Las Vegas. Now, you might be wondering, for those of you who have memorized the schedule, some of you might be asking yourselves, why are we running Las Vegas 2 weeks early? Well, that's because that was a mistake on my part. I just naturally and subconsciously moved Las Vegas to this weekend, so that way we could have 3 Pepsi Cup Series races in a row. As close call there between Kyler Sustry and Ryan Gundillo as he works his way to the inside of Michael DeFeo. But subconsciously, I decided to have the Pepsi Cup weekend here at Las Vegas just 2 weeks early, just, for time's sake, and so that way with, my truck series stuff, I'm able to catch up on that and get that stuff out for you guys. So as far as I'm concerned, it's definitely going to be a pretty jam-packed week, especially when the Pepsi Cup Series is off for the next couple of weeks, and we'll be back at COTA back on the 22nd of March. So that's going to be fun for our first road course race of the season. Gonna have to tune into that one on March 22nd, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, only on Twitch. Qualifying, of course, will be held right here on YouTube. And Ryan Gundillo, great momentum for him, top of the charts with a 26.329 as we're currently looking over at him. There's Bobby McGuire in the number 3, looking to try to make his second straight Pepsi Cup Series appearance as he jumps to second and then falls back to third as DeFeo goes back to the top with a 26.109. DeFeo trying to keep that momentum up here for this year, and so far early in this session. He's doing an absolutely fantastic job of maintaining that momentum. So Gundillo gets kicked back to second, McGuire third, Martin Nixon gets kicked back to fifth as Fitzgerald in the 92 moves up to fourth with a 378 to his name, and Jordan Sumner completes the top six. That would move on into tomorrow night's show here at Las Vegas. So Ryan Gundillo going to come on down pit road, get some 4 fresh Goodyears on his Haraz Chevy Camaro for GG Motorsports. And gonna get back out there and try to log some more laps for this number 51 machine, just to try to get some time, you know, at least try to get some more track time. And if he is able to make the race, it definitely is gonna be worth it. Especially once we get down to qualifying here pretty soon, after these drivers are all done doing their stuff. And how about this? Jordan Sumner gets kicked out of the top 6, and that's all thanks to the number 32 of Nikki Fox. A 26,344 to her name as she holds on to that final transfer spot. Rhea Tikian in the number 45, currently outside looking in currently. Just about 5/100ths of a second back as he moves his way to the inside of Ajax Fitzgerald, who gets kicked back to 5th, all because of Joshua Cornish, who moves up to 3rd, 26,210 for him. Nikki Fox breaks back into the top 6 with a 294 to her name. Fitzgerald gets knocked out. And that means this is definitely going to be troublesome, especially as we get halfway through the session, because times, the times as far as, you know, as laps go, obviously they won't change for a while, because there's always going to be that one oddball time that comes out of nowhere and ends up outplacing some other drivers that could be in the top 6. We've seen it before last week with Ryan Gundillo. We could see it again here this weekend, possibly with Janiah Hill in the number 7, who won in a very dominating fashion at the LA Coliseum at the beginning of this month, right here in February, making contact with Kyler Sustry. I don't know about that. I think that might affect the performance on the car aerodynamic wise, but then again, it is NR 2003, so anything could possibly happen. But realistically speaking, as far as for Janiah Hill, she hasn't really gotten off on the right foot aside from her Clash win. Failed to make the Daytona 500. She failed to make Rockingham. Now trying to go for 3rd time is the charm and try to get into this race, but so far she fell outside of the top 10 because other drivers are now starting to really pick up on their times. Chase McClure, for instance, is now holding on to the final transfer spot with a 26,220, drafting with the 2 of Martin Nixon as well as the 32 of Nikki Fox. Now this is something that we're going to be seeing, especially once we get into qualifying with all 42 cars out on the racetrack. A lot of drivers are going to be drafting off of one another. We're going to see some 4-car packs. At least 4-car packs like this. But a lot of drivers, all 42 cars are pretty much going to be bunched up together, especially when the green flag waves, and the cars are going to be very close together. If you remember last year in the McDonald's Cup Series, all the cars, I mean, especially with the package that we were running, they were able to pull away from one another. They were able to spread out. They were able to make space a little bit quicker than what these cars will tomorrow when we go racing from here at Las Vegas. It's going to take them a little bit to actually get spread out, especially on the first green flag run before pit stops come around. So that is something to look out for when we go racing tomorrow night. So definitely might be some pretty entertainment and definitely some good racing there if you want to watch that. So I don't even know what I'm saying anymore because my brain's pretty much blanked out. I recently celebrated my 25th birthday, just kind of going off topic here because, you know, and I definitely partied a little too hard. But hey, you know, it is what it is. We're back at it, and we're strapped in, is what I'll say. We are strapped in to these qualifying sessions. Fitzgerald jumps up to third with a 26.166, bringing him up to third. Cornish gets kicked back to fourth, but McClure currently still holds on to that sixth position with that 260, 8/1000ths of a second back from him. Not much longer. Travis Crampton now goes to the sixth and final transfer spot with a 256 to his name, and 1/1000th of a second back is Jordan Sumner, drafting off of the 89 of Joshua Cornish. But so far, other than Travis Crampton breaking in, there's been no changes to the top six. Of course, Michael DeFeo still untouched with his 109. The 131, that was Ryan Gundillo, who still sits second. Ajax Fitzgerald third. Then Joshua Cornish fourth, looking to make his second Pepsi Cup Series appearance of this year. Then Bobby McGuire also trying to make his second consecutive start on the year. He's fifth right now. Travis Crampton holds on to that final transfer spot here in the number 61, trying to make another start to the 2025 season. With less than 5 minutes to go here in these knockout qualifying sessions, live right here on YouTube, here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Checking back over here with Janiah Hill, 26.367 here for the number 7 machine. The only issue that I'm seeing, of course, obviously, I mean, it's probably one of the biggest elephants in the room, of course. I mean, she's not drafting with anybody. She doesn't have any other cars around her. She's driving by herself. So obviously, with plate tracks like Daytona and Talladega, you know, both of those tracks rely heavily on drafting. They rely heavily on, you know, being around other cars to pick up your speed, and of course just to progress through the positions. And unfortunately for Janiah Hill, I mean, with this car, it is the same thing, especially for a racetrack like Las Vegas, because of the package that we're running. But for Janiah Hill, it's definitely unfortunate because there's nobody around her, unfortunately. I mean, then again, we did see Bobby McGuire go to pit road and a couple shots back, so there is a possibility that McGuire may be coming out of pit road here pretty soon to save the day, but I'm not 100% certain that may happen. But speaking of, McGuire just got knocked out of the top 6. That is interesting. How about this for a top 6? DeFeo, Gundillo, McClure, Fitzgerald, Nicky Fox, Joshua Cornish, that is currently your top 6 with 3 minutes remaining. McGuire is 25/1000ths of a second outside looking in. Things are not looking too good for McGuire as of right now. He is on the bubble, at least 2.5 minutes left for him to get back out there and put down a couple more laps, but he's definitely going to have to get lucky when he gets out on pit road because he'll definitely need a little bit of help once he gets back out on the racetrack and have a couple other cars with him, so that way he is able to catch a whiff of the draft off of a couple other cars. Maybe Michael DeFeo, maybe Ajax Fitzgerald, could be Ryan Gundillo, but things are definitely not looking too great here for McGuire Motorsports. I mean, especially in the late stages of the go or go homer session. Before we find out just exactly who will be the top 6 that will be joining the 42 car field for tomorrow night's race here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, the Pennzoil 400. 90 seconds get added onto the clock. This is actually really good news here for Janiah Hill as she gets picked up by Travis Crampton and Jordan Subner. See what the time could be here this time around. She's still 13th with a 367 to her name. Every driver right now is within that 26-second bracket. Of course, the worst of the worst being Josiah Munsell with a 566 to his name. Obviously, he is not making the show tomorrow night, but let's see what Janiah Hill's time is going to be now. All eyes on the 7. See if there's going to be any form of improvement, and there is not any form of improvement, unfortunately, here for Janiah Hill. So I think the next best hope for this 7 is to let the 61 and the 20 go, so that way she can pull up, so that way she can get a good whiff of the draft. Actually, wait a minute, that is not good. Both Crampton and Sumner make the trip to pit road, and that could be the thing that spells game over for Janiah Hill. Her early season woes of trying to make a points-paying race continue. The fastest guy, I'd say the fastest part-timer of the season so far, Michael DeFeo, making the trip to pit road. Pole sitter for the Daytona 500 earlier this year. He also had the fastest time to get himself into the race at Rockingham. He's going to have himself the fastest time to get into this race tomorrow night at Las Vegas. And man, oh man, I believe the times are going to be finalized here in another 10 seconds. So, with that said, your top 6 officially, as the session is completed, Michael DeFeo, Ryan Gundillo, the 52 of Chase McClure, Ajax Fitzgerald, Nikki Fox, and Joshua Cornish will all be racing tomorrow night here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and they will join the next 36 cars to make up the 42 car field this weekend. That has got to be absolutely gut-wrenching, especially for somebody like Bobby McGuire, for instance, who is so close yet again to making a Pepsi Cup Series race. I mean, of course, I understand he made Rockingham last week, but was so close to making yet another start here again this week. He misses out by 25 one-thousandths of a second. Martin Nixon is going to miss out yet again after winning the Daytona 500. Same for Kyler Sustry. Travis Crampton will be sitting out. Jordan Sumner, Ray Atikian, Janiah Hill, and Josiah Munsell. All of these drivers will be sitting out and will be getting ready for COTA in 3 weeks on the 22nd of March. But as far as these top 6 drivers go, DeFeo, Gundillo, McClure, Fitzgerald, Fox, and Cornish, huge congratulations to those 6 drivers. They will join the full-timers here in just a little bit to set the starting lineup for tomorrow night's race. It's going to be a fun one. And when we come back, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be getting ready for Pepsi Cup Series qualifying, official knockout qualifying from here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. So stick around, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back here after the break.
If you want to watch a stream, you have to be ad-free because he gives you like 3 in an hour or minute. Please just do what he wants and he will give you the victory royale because he is very good at Fortnite. Not really, I'm just kidding. Yeah, he is really good at Fortnite. Yeah, he is good at Fortnite.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. We are getting ready for knockout qualifying here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway for the main event of the Pepsi Cup Series, race number 3 here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. This is round number 1. So for those that are new and are not quite sure how we run our qualifying, here's exactly how we run that. All 42 cars will start out on the racetrack. This is round number 1. The top 24 drivers will move on over to round 2. Top 12 move on to the final round where they will go for the pole, and which pretty much all the other drivers that fail to make it to each round, that is where they will start for tomorrow night's race from here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Another thing that we'll go over here in later on is the point standings. We'll definitely give you a good preview of that, bring you up to speed, and then we'll do it again, of course, tomorrow night before we go racing. But there's definitely been a huge, massive shakeup in the point standings for those that may not have been able to keep up with the standings as far as what everything that's been going on in the Pepsi Cup Series is concerned throughout the last 2 weeks. It's definitely been very chaotic, though. A very good yet very chaotic start, to say the least. I mean, I'd say smooth, more smooth than chaotic, but that could very well change coming into this weekend here at Vegas, because this racetrack, as you can see, is not all that wide. You could still technically go 3 wide, but it is still very, very, very dangerous. And especially with this package that we're running here for these cup cars, that doesn't make 3 wide any better or any easier. This is Lopez right now running second on the board, now third with a 27.115. Claire Phillips goes to the top to start out with a 27.061. How about that for our former points leader? Yes, you heard that correctly, a former points leader. Phillips, unfortunately, with her 23rd place finish at Rockingham Speedway, unfortunately, she fell out of the points lead. But, of course, Stephen Colon managed to inherit the top spot in the point standings after his win at Rockingham. We'll definitely talk more about that here later on in the program. But definitely some really good momentum for Cologne Motorsports and Stephen Colon himself, and trying to look to bring another trophy to Cologne Motorsports here in the 2025 season. Roberto Crown Jr. finds himself at the top of the charts. Not anymore. It is Jerry Rose in the number 00 with a 26.543, a full 10th quicker than Roberto Crown Jr. Nia Steidl jumps up to second on the charts, 26.588. She was well on her way to moving on into round number 2. Actually, wait, are there... Oh, there's 14 cars. Oh, my bad. My mistake. Uh-oh. That was my mistake. Whoops. But still, the point stands. 5, like, wow. That was absolutely embarrassing. I do want to massively apologize for that. But we are now officially getting ready to go here for qualifying. That is a huge mistake on my part. And the most embarrassing part about that is it was all live. All of it was live. So yes, get your dirt points ready. Get all your acceptance ready. Whatever it is that you do, get them all ready. But nonetheless, point still stands. I mean, obviously, the rule still stands, you know, of course, is how qualifying works here for, knockout qualifying works here for the Pepsi Cup Series. This time, all 42 cars are going to be out on track, with the top 24 moving on to the second round. Then round 3, we'll have the top 12, and those drivers will be fighting it out for the pole for tomorrow night's race here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway for race number 3, the Pennzoil 400. Aaron Abel at the top of the charts to start out with a 26.957. There's Campbell Marsh. Of course, I also can acknowledge that I have made a mistake in the graphics, saying that by putting Marsh's name as Marshall. So I do want to apologize for that. I just subconsciously did it, but I'll definitely try to see if I can make that change in the obviously in the probably in the most efficient way possible. Just trying to make sure that everything still looks sharp and looks good. But speaking of Marsh, top of the charts, 26.828 for him. But that top spot is going to be changing a lot here as this session goes on. Five cars all wrapped up underneath a blanket. CG Halt to the top of the charts here in this pack with a 26.306. After starting in the back of the field last week, he looks to try to start up at the front of the field. He sideswipes his boss, Wyatt Walker, who just came out on the racetrack. Oh boy, CG, I don't know if Wyatt's going to be too happy with you on that one. He might have to have a word with you by the time that this round is all said and done. But by gosh, that was a close call between both of the Walker family motorsports drivers. As far as those points go, I will say, I will mention again, we will take a look at those points after this round. And as we're prepping up for round number 2 of qualifying. And I did forget to mention all the rounds, you know, all across the rounds. That means 10 minutes each, all across the board for round 1, round 2, and round 3. I did forget to mention that. But as you see here, this is exactly what I'm talking about when it comes down to drivers being in a pack and drivers all relying on the draft. This package is supposed to bring all these cars close together and make it a little bit more difficult to try to pull away. Because obviously, as I mentioned, last year with the McDonald's Cup cars, with the way that they were set up, it was really easy to try to spread out and try to get a green flag rhythm going. With this package, it's a little bit tougher. It takes a little bit longer for these drivers to get a little bit strung out and a little bit more spread out and try to make sure that that you know you have as much breathing room as possible. It might take until the first round of green flag pit stops in order for these drivers to feel that sense of relief. But with this package, it is supposed to produce a lot of really good, lots of close quarters racing, and definitely a lot of lots of intense action for these drivers to be on top of every single lap. Russell Blaze to the top of the charts with a 25.792. Then second is Noah Clifton with an 8.35. Then Sebastian Vaughn third, followed by Valkyrie Atiki in fourth, Braden Perez fifth. Then sixth is the 07 of Tanner Parton. Then seventh, of course, that's Michael DeFeo in the number 60, making his third consecutive Pepsi Cup race this year, followed by Abby Walker, Wyatt Walker, and Emily Anderson. That currently is your top 10. Currently looking at Nia Steidl here in the number 6 car, the number 6 machine, after coming off of a absolutely spectacular run at the Rockingham Speedway last week. Didn't get the best of qualifying results. Started 29th, a little bit closer to the back of the field. And it started at the very bottom of the point standings. But with the race car that she ended up bringing and with the adjustments that she wound up making to this number 6 machine, they absolutely turned this 6 machine from a parachute into a rocket ship and propelled herself all the way to a top 10 finish, which catapulted her from 29th and, well, from the very bottom of the points all the way up to 19th on the charts. So definitely a huge turnaround already for the number 6 of Nia Steidl, but right now she is currently outside looking in with a 26.061. That changes again as she gets bumped a little bit further away from the cut line to make it to round number 2. Val Moscow holds on to that final transfer spot in a tie over Campbell Marsh. So things for Steidl as of right now, not looking too great, but then again, this is only qualifying. So with whatever adjustments that they could make to this race car, Nia Steidl, we could still very well see her put on a good show tomorrow night. So definitely going to be somebody to watch out for as one of those sleeper picks. Coming up on 3 minutes remaining here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Driver holding onto the final transfer spot to get into round number 2. That would be Wayne Lopez as of right now, holding on by 3/1000ths of a second over Kyle Craven. And it looks like Steidl has just fallen back to 30th, now falling outside of the top 30. So, of course, things not looking too great here for Steidl. But all eyes on her right now to try to see if she can get above the cut line. And she has 17th on the charts with a 25.986. She used the draft to her advantage and stayed glued onto the back bumper of last week's winner, Stephen Colon. And she moves up to 17th on the charts. Well, at least above the cut line. She lost 1 spot, but she's still in the green for right now. We'll come back to her in just a little bit, but looking at the drivers that are holding on to that final transfer spot, this time it's Alex Bonsignor in the number 22 machine. He's sitting on pit road as of right now, so a little bit of trouble here for Bonsignor. He's holding on by 5/1000ths of a second over Terry Walker, who's in this group. And things definitely not looking too good here for Bonsignor. And this is bad news if you're somebody like Bonsignor, because if you see Terry Walker in a pack like this, you know for sure that there is a chance that he could actually wound up with a really good time that will set him on a good stride above the top 24. He hasn't reached it yet, but he has been knocked out. Bonsignor is now officially outside of the top 24. 2/1000ths of a second ahead of him is Andrew Ramsey with a 26.010. So definitely a very good chance that he can move on to round number 2. 1 minute on the clock before times are finalized and before we know who will be moving on to round number 2. Steidl falls to 20th. But there's still time. There's still hope for her to move on to the second round. But as of right now, I mean, as far as the front goes, I mean, Valkyrie Atikian jumps up to second. 25.827 for her. Here's a look at the NS Racing boys. Zachary Fitzwater, Nathan Stapleton. Stapleton not having himself a good start off to the season. His early season troubles have absolutely been just tough to watch, especially if you're somebody who pulls for Nathan Stapleton. Even if you are supposed to be a little bit unbiased, but for Stapleton, he hasn't been able to get his season off to a good start, and unfortunately for qualifying, that is the same case for him. As far as Zachary Fitzwater, he's on the opposite end of the spectrum. He's having himself a really strong start to the season, currently third in the points. And as far as qualifying, that's not showing that, but unfortunately, that's where both Stapleton and Zachary Fitzwater will have to start tomorrow night. So now times are final in another 2 seconds. And we now know your top 24 that will be moving on over into round number 2. It's Russell Blaze with the fastest time of a 25.792. Valkyrie Atikian advances along with Noah Clifton, Nikki Fox, Abby Walker, Sebastian Vaughn, Emily Anderson, then Parton, Perez, Craven. That is your top 10. Jerry Rose, Chase McClure, Michael DeFeo, Wyatt Walker, of course, Zachary Taylor. We wound up seeing him before all the cars teleported to pit road. Then Ryan Little, Rogel Dorn, Ryan Gundillo, Ajax Fitzgerald, Nia Steidel holding on to a top 20 spot, so she moves on, along with Quentin Moore, Claire Phillips, Roberto Crown Jr., and Bruno Di Giacomo. Those drivers will be moving on into round number 2 for knockout qualifying from here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway from 25th on down. We'll take a look at that here in just a little bit. But those are the drivers that will be this is where they'll be starting for tomorrow night's race. And it's kind of unfortunate to see that some of these drivers, that had really good runs. Unfortunately, this is where they're going to be starting closer to the back. You take Stephen Colon, for instance, came out with the points lead. We're going to go over the points here in just a little bit before we get ready for round number 2, of course. But for somebody like Stephen Colon, He's had the highest of highs, but unfortunately for qualifying, it is one of the lowest of the lows here for Cologne. So he'll be starting in the 40th position. Nathan Stapleton, his early season woes continue on. When it comes down to qualifying, he will be starting 41st. Zachary Fitzwater, 39th. The American Motorsports cars, all, I would say, of course, Marsh and Rowe, they failed to make it on to round number 2. The only other driver that is going to be moving on, of course, is Kyle Craven. So when we come back, ladies and gentlemen, we'll get the field set up here for round number 2, and we'll re-rack them, restack them, and do it all again for round number 2. We'll be back after this short break.
If you want to watch a stream, you have to be ad-free because he gives you like 3 in an hour or minute. Please just do what he wants and he will give you the victory royale because he is very good at Fortnite. Not really, I'm just kidding. Yeah, he is really good at Fortnite. Yeah, he is good at Fortnite.
And we're back here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway here. We are just about to get set here for round number 2. But before we do that, we do want to go ahead and give you a good little preview of the point standings here coming into this weekend here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. We'll definitely talk about a little bit more of this stuff once we get into tomorrow night's race on the pre-race show before we drop the green flag and turn all 42 cars loose. But coming into this weekend, of course, huge shakeup in the point standings. Of course, as we mentioned, Stephen Cologne, he went from 22nd with 19 points all the way up to the points lead. Campbell Marsh, 4 points back. Zachary Fitzwater, still a really good, strong performance as of right now. But there's a lot of changes, a lot of jostling for position in the point standings early in the going. And this is what I love about the early season shakeups, is that some drivers that had miserable starts to the year, they can always turn them around, and they could go from, like, say, Nia Seidel's case, from all the way down below the top 30 all the way up to 19th on the charts. So really great turnarounds for some of those drivers. Unfortunately for Alex Bonsignor, he didn't really go anywhere from the 30th position. He still is 30th with 11 points to his name. And then, of course, as we scroll to page number 4, you see some of those drivers, including Nathan Stapleton, unfortunately not getting his season off to a fantastic start. Sebastian Vaughn with 2 points to his name, unfortunately, coming into this weekend. But again, a lot of things could still change here as we progress on in the season, and it is definitely going to be pretty interesting to see how this season will shake up heading into this weekend, and as well as, you know, we go into our 2 to 3 week break and get ready for COTA on March 22nd. So that is just less than at least 2 to 3 weeks away. But as far as, you know, Pepsi Cup Series competition goes here in Las Vegas, we're getting ready for round number 2. This is to determine the top 12 that will be moving on to the final round and be fighting for the pole position for the Pennzoil 400 right here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Of course, you see Ryan Gundillo come out onto the racetrack. He'll be the first one out to start up round number 2. A few other drivers will be following. Of course, that is the number 6 of Nia Seidel, whom again, really great turnaround here early in the early stages of this year. Went from below the top 30 in points all the way to 19th after a stellar performance at the Las Vegas Motor Speed, at the Rockingham, actually, I want to say last week, with a top 10 finish. Seidel definitely looking to continue that momentum coming into this weekend and try to still get her first Pepsi Cup Series victory. She's been racing in the series since 2023 for EGI, and going to try to, of course, coming back here for 2025, of course, obviously with EGI's new look and new manufacturers, some, you know, at least new sponsors for the most part, you know, especially for Nia Seidel, SKF being on board this number 6 machine. It definitely shows that EGI is definitely here and they are ready to roll, at least try to get back up into contention for the most part. I mean, there are only other 2 drivers that are at least close, you know, to you know, the top 10. Obviously, Claire Phillips, she's still holding on to a top 10 spot in points. Wayne Lopez is right around that point as well. Emily Anderson, Nia Seidel, of course, both of those drivers still having a little bit of a slower start to the season, but it is still very early on, and anything could happen as we progress on in the year. Sebastian Vaughn holding on to the top time with a 26.889, a 26.9 for Nia Seidel, as she's currently second on the charts. We're going to look for Sebastian Vaughn. There he is in the number 54. He's riding all by himself, so of course that time unfortunately wasn't going to be able to hold up because Abby Walker goes to the top with a 26.588. Another driver who's riding by herself but is barely catching the draft off of Tanner Parton's machine. And as we progress that, and as more drivers take time and put some laps down, there are more drivers that, of course, are going to the top of the charts. Some of them are being pushed outside of the top 12. Driver currently holding on to the final transfer spot to get into the last round. That is Emily Anderson as of right now. Steidl was just above the cut line, then gets shoved right back down below. DeFeo now holding on. Now it's McClure holding on to the final transfer spot. Now it's Ryan Gondillo. It is just changing almost what feels like every other second as these drivers continue to put down faster and faster times. Now it's Chase McClure back on that spot as Sebastian Vaughn gets back up inside of the top 12 with a 26.348 to his name. How about that there for Sebastian Vaughn, trying to make sure that he can go for the pole here and try to get his season turned around here in the early stages of the 2025 Pepsi Cup Series season. Emily Anderson in the number 6 machine, or in the number 4, I meant to say, with a 381 to her name. She currently is on the outside looking in right now in this little group with Zachary Taylor, as Taylor actually aborts mission, comes to pit road. But has a couple other cars with her, that being DeFeo and Crown. Sebastian Vaughn and Ajax Fitzgerald, they're not too far behind, but they could still form up a little pack and try to get themselves above the threshold. I mean, I understand Emily Anderson is above the cut line. Same can be said here for Roberto Crown Jr. and as well as Michael DeFeo. Both of those drivers are above, all three of these cars are above the cut line, to make it into the final round. But as far as, just trying to get further up the leaderboard, that's a bit of a different story. And that unfortunately is not going to come to fruition here for Emily Anderson, as DeFeo and Crown are just going to pass her by. Now it's Ajax Fitzgerald holding on to that final transfer spot to get into the final round. DeFeo now outside looking in. Now it's Noah Clifton who is on the bubble with a 23.350, which just got knocked out by Valkyrie Atikian, a 306 to her name, tied with the 21 of Roberto Crown Jr. But as far as Noah Clifton goes, he still has a chance to try to get back up there inside of the top 12, so that way he can go for the pole. And he's in actually a pretty good pack to do this in. But the only problem is, I mean, I wouldn't say it's much of a problem. The only issue is that none of these cars are really organized, and he's not really in a position to where he could back up and try to rely on another car to give him a really good push through the corners and off, on corner exit on the front straightaways. So he might get his wish here as he goes around Nikki Fox in the number 32. Drafts right up to the back bumper of the 18 of Abby Walker. There's a slight little improvement there on Clifton's time, but unfortunately it's not enough to get himself above the threshold. He's 7/1000ths of a second out as of right now. He goes 3 wide on Parton and Walker. That may not be good whatsoever. Just think if that happened with all 42 cars bunched up in a blanket. That will happen tomorrow night. Live 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right on Twitch. That's definitely going to be a barn burner if that. And if you thought Daytona and as well as Rockingham were chaotic, wait until we go racing tomorrow night here in Las Vegas. That's going to be a barn burner if anything. Roberto Crown Jr. now gets put on the bubble spot. Atikian is knocked out, but still tied, at least for the moment. It's just by a few millionths of a second, and a little bit more contact there as Noah Clifton sideswipes Emily Anderson. A replay of what we saw at the beginning of knockout qualifying for these drivers. with C.G. Hall and Wyatt Walker. But this time, it's Noah Clifton and Emily Anderson. Noah Clifton actually finds himself above the threshold with a 26.246. Didn't quite pay attention to that, but he is in the top 12, and he is able to go for the pole. Nikki Fox at the top with a 26.097, and that's all coming from this pack right here. With 90 seconds to go, your top 12 would look like this. It would be Fox, Parton, Abby Walker, Kyle Craven, Ajax Fitzgerald, Sebastian Vaughn, Wyatt Walker, Quentin Moore, Claire Phillips, Noah Clifton, Russell Blaze, and Roberto Crown Jr. Those would be the 12 drivers that would go for the pole here in 1 minute time. So things looking pretty stout here. If you're some of these drivers that are well up in the top 12, and you know you're definitely safe, and you definitely have a good shot at, you know, going for what could be your first pole, in a long time, or even just another day at the office. It is very, very possible. 30 seconds left on the board for these drivers to potentially add at least one more good lap to their, to their resume and possibly move themselves up the leaderboard or even inside of the top 12 if you're somebody on the outside looking in. So far, Atikian and Crown are still tied. Then 5/1000ths of a second back. That's not Russell Blaze, but that is Chase McClure. Additional 25 seconds added. There'll be enough time to put down one more good lap. Nia Steidl up to 15th with a 3:18 to her name. Now drops down to 16th. DeFeo now outside looking in. Roberto Crown Jr. is out. And but as far as Seidel goes, great effort nonetheless. But unfortunately, she will have to start 16th for tomorrow night's race. Better starting spot than what she had last week. Hopefully she's able to keep that momentum up. But the top 12, they'll be going for the pole here in the final round. That would be Nikki Fox, Tanner Parton, Abby Walker, Kyle Craven, Ajax Fitzgerald, Sebastian Vaughn, Wyatt Walker, Quentin Moore, Claire Phillips, Noah Clifton, Russell Blaze, and Michael DeFeo. Those 12 drivers will be fighting for the pole and for the money. Well, obviously not real money, but fighting for the glory as far as winning the pole goes. And those 12 drivers, I don't know. It's going to be pretty interesting. But we have made it to the final round, and we now know your top 12 as far as 13th all the way down to 24th. That's where they're starting for tomorrow night's race here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Great effort nonetheless to make it to this point. But now it's time to figure out who will be starting on pole for the Pennzoil 400. When we come back from commercial break, it's the final round for WRLA Pepsi Cup Series qualifying from here at Las Vegas.
If you want to watch a stream, you have to be ad-free because he gives you like 3 in an hour or minute, please. Just do what he wants and he will give you the victory royale because he is very good at Fortnite. Not really, I'm just kidding. Yeah, he is really good at Fortnite. Yeah, he is good at Fortnite.
And ladies and gentlemen, we have made it to the final round. We're back here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. It's time to figure out who will be starting on the pole here for tomorrow night's race here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, the third outing for the WRLA Pepsi Cup Series, which is going to be a very fun one. It has also been a very fun time here when it comes to qualifying, and we're ready to get the starting lineup all finished up and get all the cars ready to go for tomorrow night. They'll be racing 134 laps around this mile-and-a-half facility tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, live on Twitch. But as far as the qualifying here on YouTube, it is definitely not disappointed when it comes to Triumph, when it comes to obviously, when it comes to just tragedy, when it comes down to, drivers that came off of some really great finishes and really great highs, especially from Rockingham, for example, maybe, Bobby McGuire and McGuire Motorsports making, their first Pepsi Cup Series points paying race, their first official race. But then coming over here, unfortunately, just coming up really short on making their second consecutive appearance. Then, of course, Nathan Stapleton, his early season woes continuing on. And then as well as other drivers as well that unfortunately are not having themselves good starts to the season. Or drivers that actually are getting starts to getting good starts to the season, but unfortunately just not able to bring that momentum here to Las Vegas, especially in qualifying. But anything could change once we get into tomorrow night's race from here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Starting times, of course, Abby Walker to the top with a 7:32 to her name. All these drivers currently in the 26-second bracket. At least the top 3 goes to start out. Now top 4 is Wyatt Walker adds his name to that hat. Make that 5, and that number is going to continuously grow as all 12 drivers put down their laps. Claire Phillips to second with a 7:78 to her name. Now a 7:29 as she improves by at least 5/100ths. Now it gets dropped back to third as Tanner Parton goes to second on the board, being drafted by Abby Walker, who still holds on to the top of the leaderboard by at least 2/10 now over second place Nikki Fox, who holds on with a 5:08. Abby Walker has a 3:80 to her name, so she is very well on her way to getting her first Pepsi Cup Series pole here at Las Vegas. But another 6.5 minutes will have to pass on by. Right now, your top 12 currently goes as follows here as we're approaching 6 minutes remaining with Noah Clifton yet to take time, or at least yet to put a lap down on the board. Which that will fix itself here right about now. See what Noah Clifton's time is going to be. It is a 26.7 for Noah Clifton, currently 6th on the board right now. Not too bad there for Noah Clifton, but now that all 12 drivers have taken time, let's take a look at, where everybody would currently line up here with less than 6 minutes remaining. Of course, Abby Walker, top of the charts with a 26.380 to her name, 2/1000ths of a second back. And who would start second? That would be Nikki Fox with a 3.82. Then third, that would be now Noah Clifton with a 4.14 to his name. Then Ajax Fitzgerald followed by Tanner Parton, who would complete the top 5. Not anymore. That would be Claire Phillips, who would complete the top 5, followed by Tanner Parton 6th, Sebastian Vaughn 7th, Wyatt Walker 8th, then 9th would be Russell Blaze, and completing your top 10, that would be the 28 machine of Kyle Craven. And new front row, new look to the potential front row. That is Noah Clifton, who jumps up to the top spot, drafting off of Sebastian Vaughn. That puts him up at the top with a 26.311. Ajax Fitzgerald jumps up to second with a 373. Not anymore, as Sebastian Vaughn jumps up to second with a 359. How about that there for these two drivers that will more than likely start on the pole, start on the front row, if these times do not get touched by the other two drivers from third on down. With 4.5 minutes remaining, this has been an absolutely fun time here for Pepsi Cup Series qualifying from here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And the race is only going to be just a skosh better here for these here for the Pepsi Cup Series. It is definitely going to be very chaotic, as I mentioned. 134 laps on the very sunny, very slick conditions here at this 1.5 mile facility. It is definitely going to be very action-packed. Speaking of action-packed, Sebastian Vaughn just jumps up to the top of the board, 3/1000ths of a second faster than Noah Clifton. A 26.262 for the Monster Energy machine for Moonstar Enterprise. How about that for Sebastian Vaughn, who is currently your new pole sitter as of right now. Looks like Vaughn might be making the trip down pit road. It looks like he's going to do just that. Pretty solid, though, for Sebastian Vaughn. Even if he is not going to be able to start on the pole here, if things do change here within these next 3 minutes, which possibly may be the case here with Noah Clifton and Wyatt Walker now nose to tail here, especially with Clifton being 3/1000ths of a second back from Sebastian Vaughn. I mean, Vaughn and Moonstar Enterprise, they definitely put together a really fast hot rod here for qualifying, and they definitely are going to have themselves some really good momentum coming into, going into tomorrow night's race, and hopefully they are able to turn their season around. As we saw in the graphic for the point standings, Vaughn was dead last with 2 points to his name after Rockingham. So, of course, for Moonstar Enterprise and especially for Sebastian Vaughn, that is definitely not something that any of them are going to stand for, and they are going to put in the work to right that wrong. And so far in qualifying, it is definitely showing. But will it show even more once we drop the green flag tomorrow night? So that's definitely going to be something to watch out for, especially if you are Sebastian Vaughn. I mean, if you are somebody who's rooting Sebastian Vaughn on, or if you're rooting on Wyatt Walker, if you're rooting for Noah Clifton, if you're rooting for any other driver that is below the top 30 in the point standings that have yet to get their seasons turned around and try to propel themselves up the leaderboard, up the point standings in the Drivers' Championship, there's still a very good possibility of that happening, specifically because, obviously it is very early in the season. All these drivers are very, very close together in the point standings. You definitely have noticed some ties as Sebastian Vaughn makes his way back out on the track, and funny enough, in front of Noah Clifton and Wyatt Walker, but they're going to pass him on by here in a heartbeat. But going back to it, the early stages of the season is always the one of the funnest parts of the year, because that's where there's the most shakeups, that's where there are the most ties, that's when the points are at their closest, and that's where, obviously, I mentioned, I know I went backwards on that, but that's where the most shakeups end up occurring with drivers that were at the top of the leaderboard. They could be running in the points lead. Where could they be in the next week? 22nd. 30 seconds left on the charts. On the board here for final round qualifying here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. You see, Walker and Clifton, they've been nose to tail for a good portion of the time that we've been spectating them. But even with these two together, they've not been able, like neither driver's been able to improve on their time, not even in the slightest. But not even, unfortunately, Walker has not been able to improve on his time, but still a 7th place starting spot is very optimal nonetheless, especially for Wyatt Walker. Abby would be starting 6th in the race, so definitely a very good starting spot for her. But wait a minute, Russell Blaze and Claire Phillips go to the top. 26,183 for Russell Blaze. And now Sebastian Vaughn goes back to 2nd, and that's going to do it. Your pole sitter for the Pennzoil 400 is Russell Blaze in the number 69 for Prime and Durrani Racing. How about that? Durrani Racing, Russell Blaze get their first pole of their Pepsi Cup Series careers. They will be leading the field to the green flag alongside Sebastian Vaughn, a duo of rookies, a duo of Fords. Those two drivers, they definitely have to be absolutely ecstatic as of right now, especially since these are startup teams and, you know, obviously not really well, yes, they are startup teams, but they're still very, very new and fresh in the WRLA. How about that? Just look at this. The top 3 are all rookies that will be starting in the top 3 positions here for this weekend. And then you have the 2 veterans of Noah Clifton and Wyatt Walker that will be 4th and 5th for tomorrow night's event. 2 part-timers make up 6th and 7th. Then another pair of rookies, 8th and 9th, with Michael DeFeo rounding out the top 10 as the 3rd part-timer inside of the top 10 that will start in the top 10. And then Tanner Parton and Quentin Moore will be starting in the 6th row. But huge congratulations nonetheless to Russell Blaze and Durrani Racing on their first Pepsi Cup Series pole. And that's going to pretty much do it here for Pepsi Cup Series qualifying from here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Huge congrats one more time to Russell Blaze and Durrani Racing. They will lead the field of the green flag alongside Sebastian Vaughn in the number 54 machine from Moonstar Enterprise. And as far as the racing goes, thank you for watching. We'll see you guys tomorrow night on Twitch for the Pennzoil 400 at Las Vegas, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, folks. Have yourselves a fantastic night, and we'll see you all tomorrow on Twitch.